Hello everybody, Aline Wilson. I'm going to read for you again some more from Mystery, Magic, and Medicine. Today we're going to look at the transition from witch doctor to priest when religion enters the field of medicine. The Code of Hammurabi shows us that the practice of medicine was regulated by the Babylonians as far back as 2250 BC. One of the most ancient medicines of the civilized people of which we have definite knowledge is that of Egypt. The Egypt of 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. Medicine then was a mixture of what we should call superstition and religion. On the other hand, and also on the other, very practical measures. The ancient Egyptians carried out religious healings by invocations to the gods. They administered medicinal substances, most of which had no virtue, but some few of which did. And they performed surgical operations of a crude sort, like splinting broken limbs. Today, the ancient inscriptions exist which tell of the numerous medicaments and the often absurd compounding used by the Egyptians. In passing, let us pause a moment to see why people use medicaments. Animals, you know, were often deeply respected, even worshipped by ancient peoples. The sacred animals of Egypt, the totem animals of the tribes of North America. Animals were assumed to have certain virtues which might be preserved and absorbed into the bodies of humans. Sometimes, therefore, they were sacrificed and eaten. Sometimes they were allowed to die before their flesh was reverently consumed. Thus, the loins of the fox, the long-winded animal, were thought to be good for consumption, and the fat of the bear, since it was a hairy animal, was considered in the treatment of baldness. Eating a lion's heart, or in truth, the heart of a brave human enemy, was supposed to yield courage. From such ideas, it is not a far stretch to the belief, even now persisting, that goose grease has a special virtue as an ointment for bronchitis, or that rattlesnake oil, or even that of earthworms rubbed on the skin, makes an athlete limber. To old folk legend, we owe at least one very valuable animal remedy: cod liver oil. It has been used for centuries, but only in the last few years, since the discovery of vitamins, has science demonstrated the amazing benefits to be derived from it. Furthermore, in ancient times, toads were boiled up, as in the witches' cauldrons, and were used to treat heart disease and dropsy. Modern science, curiously enough, has shown that the skin of the toad contains a substance essentially similar in action to digitalis and therefore actually beneficial in heart disease. The Chinese, in their ancient medicine, administered ground-up dragon's bones to children with convulsions. Dragon's bones were the bones of dinosaurs, long exposed to the weather in places like the Gobi Desert. Today, in infantile tetany or convulsions, the physician administers calcium, the main ingredient of bones. Burnt sponge to treat simple goiter was another remedy. It was superstitious, empiric in origin, but the value is now demonstrated in the modern use of iodine for this condition. These few remedies, however, are great exceptions. The vast number of animal remedies used by early men, and they included almost every conceivable animal product, had no actual beneficial effect. They were merely superstitions. Thus the Egyptians gave a whole skinned mouse for childhood disease. Ancient mummies of children are found today with the remains of the mouse still in its stomach. Centuries later, in Rome, in the beginning of the Christian era, Pliny advised the same remedy as a preventive against toothache. It's been said by some authors that the use of animal products by ancient man was the beginning of modern organotherapy. But this is true only in appearance. The early man ate the organs of animals because of believed mystical virtue. The modern use of such substances as thyroid extract is based upon sound, scientific demonstration of the body's specific need for them. The ancient man eating the raw pancreas of a sacrificed ghost in the belief that the gods would give him back luck, and the diabetic of today injecting insulin, a product made from the pancreas to relieve his disease, bear a resemblance that is a mere coincidence. The one practice was based upon mysticism, religious beliefs, the other upon sound and demonstrated scientific fact. And few indeed of the ancient remedies have been found to have even a semblance of benefit. What has been said concerning animal remedies applies likewise to those of vegetable origin. Trees and plants, so early man believed, were the abode of spirits. Eating the plant or drinking the juice brought the virtue of the spirit to the human flesh. Even today, among uncivilized races, the intoxicating action of alcoholic drinks is attributed to possession by the spirit of the vegetable from which the drink is made. And such specific use of the word spirits still survives in our language. Almost literally every plant substance that has grown upon the face of the earth has been used in treating disease. The great majority have no virtue, but the early type of medical practice made no discrimination in such matters, and the old herb remedies, mostly useless, have been carried down even into modern times. Just as in the case of animal remedies, some few, used first for mystical reasons or perhaps empirically, have been found by modern science to be of outstanding merit. Along with the plant lore of healing, there grew up also the plant lore of poisons. Early man quickly found that some vegetable substances had spirits that were indeed harmful, even deadly to the human being. In his practice of black magic, the early medicine man dealt with them as in the Middle Ages, the compounding of poisons was considered a fine art, encouraged by scheming nobility. Animals and vegetables were early used in medicine, so mineral substances came later, the majority much later. So we shall reserve the discussion of them until we come to the 15th century of the Christian era and the beginning of the great medical conflict between the Galvanists or herb doctors and the followers of Paracelsus, the mineral doctors. Plant and animal remedies and religious ceremony were not the only methods used by the priests, physicians of ancient times. For as we come into Egyptian, Babylonian civilizations, we find magic, a magic of astrology and numbers and colors, assuming a greater and greater part in medical practice. The roots of astrology took its systematic form at the hands of the early priests of Eastern civilizations. It influenced medical matters for thousands of years afterward. Its remnants exist today in superstitions. The believed influence of the moon on bodily functions is shown in our word lunatic. But this effect of the moon's rays was only one of many aspects of its presumed influence. Medicines were given or not given according to the state of the moon. The symbolism connected with the moon's periodic birth, growth, decline, and death affected all sorts of human undertakings as well as disease. The sowing of crops, waging war, marrying, bleeding, cupping, administering medicine were only a few of the things which were scheduled according to the phases of the moon. And these ancient beliefs strongly colored the medical practices of as late a period as the 18th century. The sun and the stars likewise played their part in medical practice, giving us almost innumerable superstitions, many of which persisted for centuries. Physicians of even as recent a time as 200 or 300 years ago often made diagnoses by casting the horoscopes of their patients. And until an even more recent period, falling stars and comets were believed to be the portents of epidemics. Perhaps the RX that stands at the top of a physician's prescriptions may even be a remnant of this once widely prevalent Aristotelian belief. According to some scholars, it is an abbreviation for recipe, meaning take. But others hold that it is the astrological sign of Jupiter, under whose protection medicine was generally placed. As such, it is a written charm or invocation to the gods to ensure the efficacy of the remedy. From astrology, it is only a step into the magic of numbers. Even today there exist, as superstitions, the beliefs that they're held by ancient man as vital truths in medical matters. 7, 4, and 13 were particularly potent numbers, so it was thought. A child born in the 7th month of the calendar was supposed, and still is by some people, to have a better chance of living than one born in the 8th month. Actual fact to the contrary. Again, there is the belief that every 7th year the individual regenerates the whole body, puts off the old Adam, and renews his flesh. And likewise, there were the critical days in the course of disease, 4, 7, and 9. Numbers also control the dose of drugs. Witness the 7 pieces of ergo rye that the wise women of Europe gave to the childbearing women. And perhaps, who knows, there is an ancient significance in the common dose of medicine taken 3 times a day. Colors, too, have played a role in medicine. History records pink or red medicine for pale people. And as treating anemia, red wines were once supposed to be better than white wines on account of the color. Blood, because of its color, was used for anemia, an excellent remedy, so it happened, not because of its redness, because, as we know now, the iron it contains. But when we came to such beliefs as the one that the red blood of a black fowl would cure rheumatism, shingles, and other and associate diseases, we get away from any empirical bias and plunge instead into the true mystery and magic of colors in medicine. Practically every substance in the world has been used for medical treatments. And in those days when men with magic and mystery groped blindly in their hope of overcoming their misfortunes or warding off disease, the magic of stones, the healing property of gems, healing wells and springs, the evil eye, those were the kind of matters that had their play in medical affairs before science came in to give us the rational basis of modern medicine. But if we look back to the ancient days of early civilizations, Egyptian, Babylonian, Jewish, we can see rising almost imperceptibly above the morass of mystery and magic, the beginning of rational medical practices. There we find some surgery, some well-attested drugs, and most important of all, the hygiene, the preventive medicine, founded by the ancient Hebrews. But here is a striking fact that shows the earlier stage in the transition of medicine. Although the Jewish people developed a very sound and rational code of hygiene, such was their plane of civilization that, like all medicine of the time, they built this code into their religion. Medicine and religion had not separated. Sanitations at the hands became a religious precept. The priests were sanitary police. I'm going to leave you there, and we'll see if we go on. Please note in the author's discussion, he mentioned a lot about herbs that many people believe now have been overlooked because of the tendency of science to go into the lab to make their pharma. Thank you for watching.